Okay, so Corker Brothers, tell me about it. Where did it start? Why did it start?
We got into the industry about 6 years ago in a very unconventional way, really. A lot of people in that sector had years of experience working for, big PLCs or SMEs locally. It's quite an unconventional way to enter into the development industry by finding a course on YouTube, pinging that to Harry and saying, I think we should go and do this course. And obviously we've done our due diligence behind that course, to see what case studies they had done or what success other people that done the course had done. So yeah, we'd done that. I saw the course on YouTube, sent it to Harry, and he agreed that we should go and do it, and we just dived into it.
Putting what you learn into action, which is, a lot of people, I think that's where they sort of hesitate and get a bit scared of like, well, what is next? Well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Where it's just, if you just take the next step, which was straight after learning, is you need to find some plots of land to send a letter to then, then it sort of migrates itself towards having conversation with vendors, making offers. Yeah. So there's a process that you learn through doing that. And it's just having the confidence to take that first step. So I think if you can be, fearless and just be like, right, okay, let's just do this and see what happens. And then tick one thing off at a time rather than worrying about how you're going to build a development when you haven't even sent a letter out. And that's what a lot of people trip up on. It's just take next step, next step, next step.
We was very naive, wasn't we, as well, really? Like, you have that level of naivety that, like Harry said, you don't think that far ahead. It's just like, right, let's do this course, let's do that first. That was the next step in front of us. We've done the course, and then it was like, right, we've done the course, we've got a base bit of knowledge. Let's now take action on how we was taught to take that action and do the things that they've told us to do. So it was just come off that course and take the action. I would say, probably 80% of those people that do that course don't come off the course and take the action. They get caught back up in the sort of normal, day-to-day life, and that gets forgotten about. Well, we just, and I think like where we're brothers as well and we bounce off each other, we was just pedal to the metal as soon as we got off the course, weren't we?
Well, it's definitely easier than doing it all by yourself without a business partner or someone you trust or someone you've grown up with your whole life. Do you know what I mean? So you've got that relationship already. And like I said, with the naivety side of things, it's you don't know what you don't know. So it's like, you don't really know the places where you can trip up. You don't know all the obstacles you're going to have to overcome. It's just you don't know what you don't know. You go in sort of blind and you just go for it.
Yeah, we knew that we need to find land. That's obviously number one. It's key, having a piece of land that you can develop on. Lucky enough, we had our sister business. We could leverage that reputation, that element of trust already. The second was funding that. We didn't have the funding to buy the site. In the course, they was teaching you, find investors, do the work and do the deal, and that money will find you, basically. But,
well, yeah, we're true believers of that. If you commit to something, whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever it might be, you commit to something and you go out and do that work and are taking them steps, you'll be surprised how things mysteriously just, come full circle and come in and, fit into place along that journey. It's like, if you're not going to do the work and you're just like, oh yeah, telling people I'm going to be a property developer, and they're like, cool, what have you got? What have you got going on? You're like, oh, nothing, I just want to be one. If you're not doing the work, you're not going to get the results. And as long as you're taking steps in the right direction, and it's funny how these things just sort of fall into your lap and, things fall into place in your journey. Sent out about 1,000 letters, didn't we?
Yeah, well, there was so many, when we was fresh off the course, we still didn't have a clue where we was looking, really. So we was just, locating loads of random parcels of land. And then we would go back for a monthly mentorship where we had this planning consultant in the room, and we was able to ask questions, and he was just like, no, not going to get plan on that. No, not going to get plan on that. And over that period of 3 months, we started to understand what would get planning, what had the potential to get planning, actually where to spend most of our time and effort looking. And so we only wanted to look in areas and develop in areas where our prime locations, where we would want to live ourselves.
And areas that we knew growing up that was, within a radius, because then you've got the knowledge of the market. You can look at comparables, what the prices sell for. You sort of know in your area roughly what build costs might be, like depending on like northeast compared to southeast. There's a variation there.
Yeah.
So you've got that sort of bit of understanding, bit of knowledge that you need to get your foot in the door instead of trying to build something, 5 hours away that you don't really know. It's a lot more information you're going to have to take on board and take into account. Just sort of like do what you know and build off that sort of thing straight away.
Yeah, and I think on that point is we had a very from the minute we started looking and getting, you know, a bit more knowledge around like what we should be looking for, we created a very clear document which had our criteria. Certain size site, certain number really of units we wanted to do, postcodes we wanted to look in, and that gave us clear direction of where we should be looking. So located everything in those areas, was sending letters, follow-ups, and there was the one site that was in Matfield, and where our site was behind it, they just built 50 houses. And just like internally, I just felt like, you know, the residents of Matfield probably won't want to see another development, so they probably won't respond to this letter. So I was this close not sending a letter. Then I thought, just send it.
Yeah, again, that comes from living in the area. You know, when you lived in an area for a while, you know, we're interested in development. So we're always like, keeping an eye out, what's being built here, what's going on here? And you sort of get a feel from it from like the local community, whether it's via the local council or whatever it is. And honestly, having a local business like we did, like the family business, you hear all these things from builders and, you know, landscapers and all these people that are in the industry. Like, oh, they're building that, they're up in arms about it, or this and that. So it's like you sort of understand the different areas and like, oh, don't really know about that one. It definitely gave us that sort of trust aspect, because that first site that we ended up buying and just finished the development, they were customers of ours. So as soon as they received a letter from us, I thought, oh, interesting, okay, Corker, that's, you know, we're customers of them, we buy stuff from them. So almost instantly you've got your foot in the door type of thing. There's a bit of, you know, there's a bit of a relationship already, a bit of rapport. So it definitely got us in the door. And then, as Ollie was saying, the development site next door, what works well for us, it's almost, you're almost picking up the crumbs of like the larger developers, because they will take a big piece of land and they'll develop it out. They're not too interested about this, you know, small 3 to 9 unit piece of land that might be next door. But what they would call infill sites is sort of what we go after. You know, now it's like Ollie said, like part of our process. So finding them sites that are in the town or the village or wherever it may be, but they've been built around, so now you get these pockets of land. They're pretty much, you know, prime for further development. It'd be very, touch wood, it's very difficult for a local council to sort of say no if you're in the curtilage of that and within that boundary of a village or town. So Bass Orchards, our first development, when we found that land, they actually had outline planning for 3 large barns, but they wasn't getting what they wanted for it. And that's a very fine detail in development, is meeting the vendor's expectations, which can be very difficult. Everyone's got a magic number in the head of what they like to achieve, but is that realistic in terms of, you know, going to a developer and everyone being able to make money on it? No, not always. So they had this piece of land, didn't they, that had outline planning for 3 large barns, and they wasn't getting what they wanted for it or what they expected. So that's where we sat down and went, okay, well, they've got this already, but if we split these in half, these two, and keep one larger unit, then that's not only going to increase the amount of units on site, but it's also going to uplift the GDV, thus uplifting the offer we can make on the land, on the purchase of the land.
Yeah, so we was really creative, really. We could have often on that site, probably got knocked back, and I've got the site. But where was our first one, we want to be a little bit more creative on how we maximise that scheme and not just get the site, go away, get the uplift ourselves, and just run off and build it out and build it ourselves. So we took our time, we split up the 2 big barns to turn it into a 5-unit scheme. And then when we went to planning officers at Tunbridge Wells, we said, can we make these 2 detached? And they said, yeah. And that further increased the land value. And so doing that, it got nearer to the vendors' expectations, what they set out in the beginning. And then we also had an overage on the site as well. So we set our sales targets for those units, which we was happy with. During COVID, we didn't want to be too aggressive on what we could achieve. We wanted to be quite conservative, and we valued those units exactly where Stratton Parker also came in and done an independent valuation. So we would bang on. But we said if we achieve over that, we was confident we could do it via our marketing and, you know, bringing that modern element of what we'd done previously, our sister business, and ran some good targeted ad. We felt that we could create enough demand to bring up those prices of the units. And so that's what we've done. And from start to finish, it was a good project, and it went very well. And everyone walked away extremely happily. Happy.
Yeah, it's like the cherry on the top for them, because not only did we want it, and we didn't want to seem too desperate. We need to get your foot in the door. We need to achieve these things and build some sort of product that you can then say, we do this, and moving forward, first one's always going to be the hardest one.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, we're happy, very happy with what we achieved based on the GDP we set, which is the gross development value. Anything over that, we're happy to split with you. And, for them, they're like, oh, yeah, fantastic. Even more money coming our way.
Yeah.
So it was a great way of being creative
And collaborative.
and collaborating with the vendor, rather than, a developer going, we give you this much money for it, take it or leave it, whatever. And I feel like you have to go that extra mile when you're starting any business. You've got to put in the groundwork. You've got to do the stuff that other people aren't prepared to do. And, bigger developers that have been developing for 30 years plus, they're just in their ways that they're not worried about, picking up the crumbs and trying to work with vendors and spending 6 months negotiating the deal. But
Yeah,
that's the work you've got to do.
I definitely think that's where we prioritise is like collaboration, true partnership from the start to the finish. When we said to them at the beginning, this is the style of the houses, this is what we feel we can do on the back end, why we put the overage, and then actually to follow through on our word and to execute on that, that was more important to us than any number.
Yeah.
To follow through and to do what we said we was going to do, Jack, was more important to us.
Well, it's proof of concept. If you've got a big vision you're not trying to just do one and be done and make as much money or squeeze as much out of it as possible. It's, like we're here now, launching the brand and about to talk about other projects and stuff we've got in the pipeline. So it's proving that concept. It's like having that vision, being long-sighted. A lot of people are too short-sighted. They want to squeeze out every amount of money and, be tight and be greedy and this sort of thing. But for us, it wasn't like that. It's that first project, proof of concept, make everyone happy. And those things aren't just what we plan to do for the first project. That's how we will run our business going forward, and the ethos of the business. And that's how we will be, for the next 10 years, 15 years. That's how we all run.
Well, I would say it's like Harry just touched on, is ensuring you do the basics extremely well. Be human. It's all about relationships and people. Nowadays people want to, feel like they're part of something rather than being sold to. So just being normal with people, being caring and considerate, and listening to what their plans are. Because every vendor has a different exit. What do they want to do over there with just that empty piece of field? They might have a house with a side bit of land. Everyone's different. So just doing the basics really well, obviously upholding our values to the highest standard when we're doing that. If it's a case of us giving advice and what we feel they should do with that land, which might not end up result us getting the land, then so be it. We're exactly the same with what we do our sister business.
And it's also being a little creative with the design and stuff, and they're thinking about people these days, like ourselves, yourself, like a lot of people work from home. They want to work home space, and it doesn't mean you don't have to have a 5-bedroom home to have an office at home. You can like we did at Bass Orchards. We've incorporated home offices into 3-bed semis that are 105 square meters floor space. So it's just being creative and being a little bit different, and then having the aesthetic as well, to not just build these box houses that are like cardboard cutouts of each other, which the large multinational developers do, obviously, because they're building so many houses. So it's making us a bit more boutique and taking that different approach to giving people, almost they're buying into a brand. They're not just buying a I won't mention names, but like a big, you're not just buying something off the shelf, basically. It's like each individual project that we complete and will do in the future will have a different aspect of design to be in keeping with the local surroundings, but we keep that Corker Brothers identity. So we're already taking pieces from Bass Orchards onto our next projects already.
So for me, it was being collaborative, being human, building that relationship, prime location, make sure it's got a really good location, in branding it up, packaging it up well for marketing, and then bringing in a partner like we had with Michael and the Cannon Homes team to bring in the experts to execute on that field. It's a very risky game. We said, doing what we say we're going to do is more important than numbers. It was, but the numbers are equally important, because if you're not on those numbers and you're running over budget and you're, running into a bad market and you can't sell the houses, you can get, quite easily caught out.
The reason Bass Orchards was a huge success for us is the team, the work we did, but also the team we put together to execute on, the design, the management of that, the build, like absolutely everything. And then also disrupting the way we did things, which is mainly Oliver, with the sales and the marketing side of things. Now, we appealed to people in their design of the properties. It was very appealing, the way the aesthetic of the properties looked. But then also it's making sure that you can get that across to people and get it out there, which we chose a different direction. And I'll let you tell them about that.
Yeah, so like location was key. That created a demand organically. We didn't have to turn any ads on. Good signage out the front and flags. That was all the organic stuff that we've done. Bit of sort of social media. Like Harry says, design, making sure that it was well thought out design. It was desirable to live there, and then we could then package all that up, shoot engaging content by taking a videographer up there, turn the camera on, telling people what we're doing, capturing some of the action up there of it being built, bringing people along that journey with us. And then we knew where the search data was coming from for map field. So we took those postcodes, we took that data, loaded it into Facebook ads, and we just ran that creative to that targeted audience. When we turned that on, within a week, we doubled our database to about 220 people. And we ran that for about 3 months. And that was everything we needed to do, to be honest. It sold 4 houses off market.
4 out of 5, yeah.
4 out of 5. And then we brought Jack Nutley on, who's a local independent agent, the last one. Done a deal with him, and we sold that within 6 weeks. It was a huge success. Everyone agreed about that. But we are, clear that it was our first project. It was in a good location. We managed to sort of hit a fairly good market. So our feet are firm on the ground to try and replicate that again. And so that's what driving us forward now is we've got a new project secured, which is going through the planning process for 9 units. And if we can replicate what we've done at Natfield, again on our new project, we're definitely onto something. And that's why a lot of the stuff we're doing now is to, whilst we haven't got a live project on the go, is to build momentum, is to create awareness, share a mind, and then build that waiting list up. Whilst it was on the project, we just put a little placeholder brand in place. That was keep the budget low, like Harry says, get proof of concept. Now we've got that capital out of Matfield. It was about looking where we're going long term, looking at who we want to be in the industry and where we want to position ourselves, and creating that visual brand identity that could represent that for the next couple of decades. So we needed to position ourselves in a way that reflected us as individuals, and that's putting our values through of being able to think outside the box, having a fresh perspective on things, being creative, being high, putting integrity at top of things we do, being transparent, and being very collaborative. We're very collaborative people, and we have passion for working with good people.
It's our values are how we like to treat people, and like us as consumers, we think, well, would we like to buy this property? Oh yeah, definitely. We only want to build things and be a part of stuff that we ourselves, one, would do, and two, would live in, and want to be ourselves. So it's a bit of us really as brothers in what we do in our work. So it's got our values, it's got our morals in there, it's got our our likes, our visions, our aesthetics, our design. So it's a bit of everything.
Yeah, and like what you'll see in that bold Swiss typography is Cool Brothers isn't separated, it's together. And we feel like, yes, we're brothers, obviously we're very close, but the communities we touch and we go into is where we also want to be very close to them and build relationships and do things the right way. And so that represents not just us two being together, but that sense of togetherness on a wider aspect, further out to the communities that we touch and we deal with. We don't just want to go in somewhere, disrupt, and go on to the next one. Like doing development in any location is always going to cause a level of disruption. There's utilities, there's roadworks, all that stuff that, you know, will naturally
Cause a bit of chaos.
cause chaos. And so, like, if we can manage that, communicate, be on the ground, be responsive, and put that as well at the forefront. And that is what I was talking about earlier. It's just, you know, they're the basics of what we should be getting right. And we've, you know, grown up around saying you're going to do something and delivering on that promise. That's all part of customer service and sales. And we've learned that from mum and dad, you know, about treating people how we want to be treated, being human, being normal, and just like, yeah, being collaborative.
Well, it's about that being different and bringing in aspects of things that we like ourselves. You know, whether it's colours, looks, feels, whatever it is. You know, it's a bit more design led than your traditional house builder. We want it to feel like, you know, like a fashion brand. You know, like we've discussed.
They're modern.
You know, fun, exciting. You know, typography like Ollie mentioned, and just different. You know, people. It's not, you're not just buying a property, it's like you're buying a brand. You know, no one in house building does that. You know, there is, you buy a red row house, or you buy, you know, but you're not buying into a brand like a sort of a lifestyle. And that's what we want to promote is, you know, it's not just about the product, it's about a lifestyle and what comes with that product as well.
The story behind it. And
Yeah.
what we want the brand to reflect as a lifestyle is, you know, aspirational, premium, and, you know, a sense of community and like-mindedness of people that also believe in that stuff, you know, can come on that journey with us. We're very approachable people, like Harry says. If anyone wants to know something, by all means, you know, you can ask that question, and we can all build and discuss ideas and grow together. It's something
We want to, you know, encourage, you know, people that are like-minded like ourselves to, you know, want to purchase these properties, because what we're into, you know, other people are into, you know, health, wellness, you know, building businesses, you know, chasing your dreams type vibes. We want to incorporate that in our brand. Like, we want people to see that and think, you know, these are my sort of people. Like, I want to, you know, join them on that journey. And that's what we feel is like with the brand and the properties. It's not just selling the singular unit to this person. It's like you're buying into a brand, you're buying into a lifestyle. Like I say, like a fashion brand. It's the same sort of aspect we want to bring into this, you know, industry, which is, it's different, very different from the current industry as it is now. So our first development, Bass Orchards, that was a proof of concept, like we said. We wanted to get our ideas across, but also be guided by our partner who has all the experience. So for our next project, which we have in a contract and we need to go through the planning process, we want to bring over aspects from Bass Orchards that we had really positive feedback about. Not just the design of the properties, but like the aesthetic, as we talked about, the feel, the community, you know, boutique type developments that we do. We want to incorporate that in everything we do going forward.
I think it's taking a look on what's traditionally there and looking at our values and where we want to go with the brand, finding the right partners, like we have with the architects that we're using now. And in that's who you rely on for that. You know, you've chosen that partner for those reasons. And they know our values, they know our direction we want to go in. And it's our job to then create that. We put the trust in their process to go away and do something special. And that's exactly what they've done for our next project. So for the next 3 years, our focus is, you know, exactly what we've been doing. Prime location, you know, start to build our reputation for all the stuff that we spoke about, proper collaboration, good values. And in the next 3 years, you know, we're looking at sort of 10 unit sites, infill plots, prime locations where we want to live ourselves. But at the end of that 3 years, we want to look around in that local radius that we're operating in, and for people to say, go with these boys, or speak to the corporate brothers. Yeah. And that's where we want to be in 3 years. And then when we're there, which hopefully we will be, we can then use that foundation to then spring further. And that's, you know, like we've spoke about, chappies, taking what we do, our sister business, and almost like flipping development on its head with, you know, very green infrastructure-led developments and some really, really cool, inclusive developments, which I feel, I'm not going into too much detail with it, and the people that I've spoken to, that I've met, and that also equally excited about it, could potentially revolutionise the way in 10 years people want to live and should live, especially as people are like migrating out of cities and they still want all those amenities on their doorstep. So it's then really being able to show our creativity on cool. You've got some beautiful houses, beautiful green space. You've got all these incredible amenities as well that you could just be in.
Yeah, it's like take it, you know, what you get in a luxury high rise and putting that into communities, because you don't see that a lot. And it's, you know, like I say, you know, our values and our morals are all about health, wellness, you know, family, experiences, all that sort of stuff. So to be able to incorporate that into the Cork Brothers branded properties, which is what we're saying, we're not just building houses, you know, we want to build communities and places we'd like to live and thrive in. My favourite thing about Ollie, other than his eyes, yeah. His creative, his passion, his vision for how the brand and the future looks. Now, although at times I have to hold him back a bit and pull him back on the reins and say, just calm down, we're part of that idea for now. You know, I don't know anyone like him that can just constantly be on creative mind going, this and that, da, 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 we need to do this. And 90% of the time, 95% of the time, I'm going to agree with him. You know, and it's about also, as brothers, as close as we are, it's so important to me in a partnership to have trust and loyalty. You know, for me, they are massive values that if I can't trust you and I know you're not a loyal person, you can't be near me. So for me, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what I love about Harry is his determination and discipline to get things done. So if I've got an idea that he agrees on and we both to come to common ground that, yeah, this is a good idea, I know for 110% he's going to work as hard, if not harder, and execute and push that through. And Harry's very good at, you know, being in the detail, better than I'm being in the detail. And we've got such a synergy now, obviously, where we've been working together for so long. We don't, you know, say, right, that's your role, there's your list of things that you need to do. He knows exactly what he's doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. And that's what's nice about partnership, is that the determination, the discipline, the analytical and the being in the detail from his side, coupled with my big thinking, laying out the resources, driving that forward. He's shoving the coal as fast as you can imagine while I'm racing ahead. If I had to describe Corker Brothers in one sentence, I think I would like it to be perceived that it's a brand that you can belong to and come on that journey with us and belong.
It's built by brothers, but for others.